Right, so hello again, everyone. This is the final lesson in our series of lessons on creative writing. So we're going to look at a purple pen lesson, and I really want you to have the opportunity to look back through your responses initially, to look at the even better if targets that you were setting yourself. So if you can just pause the screen straight away, get your other responses from the last 3 lessons that we've looked at, have a little look at what you were doing, have a little look at some of the strategies and techniques you were using, and then record any of the even better if targets that you had. So if you'd just like to press pause now. So in terms of focusing the lesson, we're going to look at assessment objective 5 in the main, which is about the content and organisation of the text. So we're really looking now at selecting a material that is appropriate to your audience and their needs, but also developing your use of descriptive devices to really engage them and interest them in what you're writing, and focusing on structural features and grammatical features that are accurate and correct, but also assist in making meaning clear, and that includes the use of paragraphs. So that's our main focus as we go through today, but if you've got your own targets from your own reflection, then please do include those as part of your own success criteria. So you're going to need some lined paper again, and also a pen. So if you need to pause and just grab those now, please do. We're just going to look at the AO5 descriptors, and I know in the last few lessons we've been looking around about level 3, but it feels that we're getting more confident and we're getting more secure in our understanding of this. So I just want to look at the level 4 criteria, and in particular it's that focus of being much more conscious with what we're doing. So organising material, you've really planned effectively if you're able to organise your writing for a particular effect. So planning and that element of please pass is important. Thinking about the tone and style, and certainly meeting the needs of the register, so that's the formality of the text, is also now something that we want to think about. So you've got to remember that this isn't for one of your friends, this isn't something that we're doing as a bit of writing for a hobby. Eventually we're going to be doing this in an exam for an adult who's going to be reading our work. So we do want to think about being appropriate and formal in our register. But if we're talking in the story to one of our friends, there might be a little bit more of an opportunity to be a little bit less formal in how we're doing that. So showing the examiners that we know how to organise, and if you look at the level 5 criteria, the word manipulate ideas and structures and register in terms of making it appropriate for who we're actually aiming at is something that we need to consider today. So that's the AO5 skills descriptors. You can also then think about the flower box reflection if you need to. So this is something that we have been using since lesson 1. So I've left that on the board there. If you need to pause and just take notes from it, that's fine. And ultimately using both or one or your own version of please pass or the descriptive star. They're on the screen now, so if you do need to pause to just take some notes on those, that's also fine. And then we're going to introduce the new slide. So this is going to be a larger piece of writing from between 15 to 20 minutes. And the idea is that now we've done a series of lessons looking at creative writing and how you're assessed on it, we want this to really be your best attempt. So when I show you the slide, obviously spend some time making some planned notes on what you might do in terms of your response, but also then start to reflect on the skills and the strategies, please pass, descriptive star, flower box, in terms of how we can be successful. So this is the image that we're going to use for your final piece of writing. It is quite a neglected fairground environment with these dodgems that have been mossed over. They've obviously not been used in some time, but that's going to be the image that you're going to use as your starting point, as your stimulus. So pause the screen, spend a little bit of time actually making some planned notes about what you might write about, and then obviously you can then continue to pause the screen as you spend between 15 and 20 minutes to actually write the response. Now that you've written your response, we can look at the skills criteria. So once again, this is for assessment objective 5. Read the criteria, think about your own response, start to annotate and work out what went well in your response, but also start to look at where you could make some suggestions to yourself about what you can include. Certainly go through the checklist of the descriptive style or please pass if you need to, because that often helps me work out what sort of level I think I am in. And then if you then go back to your piece of writing, you can spend an extra 5 minutes or so just adding or shaping it a little bit better to just see if you can pull some more marks out of it. So have a little look at the mark scheme. annotate your own response, and then go back to your response if you've got any targets to help you improve. This is an example of a response, so we're just going to go through it together. We've got the idea that there are 3 paragraphs in this particular response, so I might want or go back to the student and say I need a bit more actually, but let's have a little read. It says, weary and desperate, he stumbled through the thicket. He felt the scratches from the thorns catch on his skin. He knew they were close behind. Desperate, he clawed across the drainage ditch and hastily climbed the steep incline. Oh no, he cursed under his breath. His feet felt battered and bruised, and he knew he had seconds before capture. Reaching the top of the incline, he saw the neglected theme park. The Dodgems were the closest attraction to him, and he sprinted over to them. Moss covered each solitary car. The overgrown weeds and brambles made it difficult to move between them. Then he saw what he was looking for. And what you can see on the next slide is that I've actually then been through that, just as I asked you to do, to actually annotate what I think has been done well. So you can see that there's a range of sentence structures, there's certainly a range of punctuation in this particular response, there's also a range of devices, and you can also see in paragraph 2 that I've actually used speech, and I've tried to accurately punctuate speech with a bit of punctuation before the speech marks, and then certainly inside the speech marks before I close them off. So this little focus on actually going back to what you've done and just looking at it and thinking to yourself, like, what actually have I done well, what might I improve, is a really useful focus. And then finally, going back to the mark scheme. So where I'm looking at that particular, I know it's 3 paragraphs, but where I'm looking at it, it looks like it's organised. It looks like they're using more complex punctuation like semicolons for particular effect, and it certainly looks deliberate. So even though it's quite short, it might be reaching the level 4 criteria. And then in reading it and looking at what I can do next, I want to start looking at level 5 criteria, manipulating things in a sophisticated way with a range of structural features. Might be something for me to just go back to, look at that previous response with, and make some amendments and additions in order to progress further. And then ultimately, I go back to the descriptive style, use them as a checklist, and then finally I can go into my descriptive style, spend that 5 minutes to just improve it. So if you'd like to pause now, the last little bits, and then we're going to finish the lesson. So this last bit of the lesson is for you to just go back through the mark scheme and record for yourself what you think you've done well today. So today I was working at a level 4. I achieved maybe 15 or 16 marks because I did this and then used the descriptors in terms of the detail. How I might improve? Well, I want to start working on manipulating complex ideas through a range of structural features. So just include what went well and an even better if target for yourself. And that's it for our series of lessons on creative writing. I'd like to thank you very much for your time over the past 4 lessons and all of the work that you put in. Please do send it by Microsoft Teams to a teacher, and if you can't do that, please do email it to them. And as I said in the first lesson, if you can't do either of those things, just send it to me and I'll pass it on to the right person. Thanks again for your time, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.